He's called righteous by St. Peter in the letter of Peter. And he does this. I mean, that tells you the level that you sink to in this sinful city. You see what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters? So again, I like this chart because it shows the basic temptations of Eve and how it relates to that, and how Jesus overcame it. And in between here, you see what happens when you fully give into this. Sodom and Gomorrah is a good example of what happens when you fully give into the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life. You forget about the poor, you forget about everybody else and anything else, and you do what you want, when you want, as much as you want. And God says that's abomination in his sight, because it's completely antithetical to what he is after. You got your hand up, Gina?
Do you know where Sodom and Gomorrah is supposed to be? Like modern day? Is there a new city there?
It's the current, there are several places that are actually considered possible sites of Sodom and Gomorrah. Most likely, there is a city historically called, I believe it's called I want to say Basura, but that's something like that, that they discovered by the Dead Sea, that it was a thriving city in the Bronze Age, which is the time of Abraham, about 2000 BC, that was fairly wealthy based on all the pottery and stuff that they excavated, and completely obliterated. I mean, it's just gone. And there's no explanation as to why. And around that same area, there is again, the caves around that area. There is a traditional site called Lot's Cave, which was built by Byzantine monks as the site where Lot fled, and they call him Saint Lot, fled with his daughters and hid out to watch the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. So I do know that. Let me see if I can find that real quick. Let's see if I can get an image. Yes, here it is. Lot's Cave, yes. This is a Byzantine church that was built on the site that was traditionally given to where Lot and his daughters fled after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And apparently it's in Jordan. It's probably on the Jordanian side of that, is my guess. So, yeah, here's some more pictures. I don't know if they have a picture of the inside. Just off of the Dead Sea Highway, Jordan, Western Asia. Okay. So there's a traditional site where they believe this is where Lot fled. And if you go inside, there are mosaics inside that the Byzantine monks had built to illustrate this is why we know it's Lot's Cave, because they have the story of Lot in these mosaics on the ground and on the floors and on the walls. So that's how we know. Now, was it the actual one? I don't know. Frankly, probably not, but it's as good a place as any. Like the traditional site of where Jesus was tempted by the devil. Was that probably the real site? It might have been, but I doubt if Jesus took his disciples and said, oh, by the way, guys, this is where the devil tempted me. So build a church here when I'm gone, or a monastery.
Is that a painting you have of Jesus standing on the hill and the devil?
Yes.
Who says that's good? It's just glory.
You can look it up. Just look up Jesus tempted by the devil and you can get that picture. That's where I got it. All this comes from the internet, so the internet's just marvelous. Yeah. So, let's get back to this. So, this, and I like this also because it's a temptation to save yourself, glorify yourself, and prove yourself. So each of these levels of temptation, how it affects the soul, Notice what the center is. Is it God? It's self. It's all about me. I will be like God. That was the whole temptation of the devil to Eve. You can be God of your own life, not God. Okay? So save yourself, lust of the flesh. Glorify yourself. Get anything and everything your heart's desire. Prove yourself. Do whatever you want, as you want, when you want. Okay? So that's completely antithetical to what God wants for us. So, what is the remedy for all of this? It's the application of the evangelical counsels of the church. Poverty, chastity, and obedience. And I hope my thing will click this time. I have 2 links here. Good, to the catechism. I just want you to see the new law or the law of the gospel. 1974. Okay? The evangelical counsels manifest the living fullness of charity. You see, it's all about love. It always circles back to that. Always, it circles back to that. Which is never satisfied with not giving more. They attest its vitality and call forth our spiritual readiness. The perfection of the new law consists essentially in the precepts of love of God and neighbor. Did you hear that? It's all about what? Love God and love your neighbor. It all comes back to that. Every time I'm like getting a link to the catechism, I'm noticing it just keeps coming back. If we love God, we won't do certain things. If we love our neighbor like we would ourselves, we wouldn't do certain things. I mean, the whole golden rule idea. You know, do unto others and you would have to do unto you. Well, if you did that, the world would be a much better place. The councils point out the more direct ways, the readier means, and are to be practiced in keeping with the vocation of each. God does not want each person to keep all the counsels, but only those appropriate to the diversity of persons, times, opportunities, and strengths, as charity requires. For it is charity, as the queen of all virtues, all of commandments, all counsels, and in short, all the laws and all Christian action that gives to all of them their rank, order, time, and value. In other words, if you love God with your whole heart, soul, strength, body, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself, you're going to fulfill all of the 10 Commandments. So you don't have to worry about not stealing and not killing and all of that, because you wouldn't do that for yourself, then you wouldn't do it to others. You see that? It's just that easy. And yet, this is the hardest thing that any one of us in here is going to do. You know why? Because I want what I want now. And woe to you who tries to stop me. And that's the message of the world. That's what out there they're telling you in your billboards, in your ads, in your TV shows, and everything. You can have what you want, when you want it, as much as you want it, and woe to those who try to stop me. Why? Because it's my life, it's my body, I'll do what I want. Who are you to tell me? Get away from me. Right? Does this sound familiar to anyone? I think I've heard this kind of line of reasoning before. Think pro-life movement, right? What's the #1 argument that pro-choice people say? It's my body.
It's my life.
It's my choice. I've got news for you. Both of those my's are wrong. From this perspective, both of those are wrong, because it's not your life. It is not your life. It is not your body. Whose is it?
God.
God's. So you do with it and give it back to Him. You do not have a right over your body, over your life. And I know that sounds strange, but when you think about it, it's God's life given to you. You are a steward of it. So what is the proper response? Give it back to him. See what I mean? But we are so selfish. We are so inculcated in our sinful minds that we think that this is my life, my body. I will do what I want, when I want, as I want, as much as I want. And again, woe to those who try to stop me. You know, we have to get rid of that mentality. Because it's not your life, it's not your body, it's God's life given to you. It's God that gave you this body. Therefore, glorify him with it. It's hard to hear because we think we are in control. We are not. We are not. And the minute we get that in here, and we begin to say, it's your life, God, then I'm giving it back to you. Isn't that the command that we heard from Adam and Eve? You know, this whole guard and protect thing is giving creation back to him. This is the original idea. See, God's still trying to train us into following him in this way. But we're stubborn, self-centered, sinful people. And we want things the best of us Catholics. The nicest Catholics want things their way, when they want it, as they want it, and woe to those who try to stop me. And those attitudes are anti-Christian. They're antithetical to the Christian because Jesus says, give them up. Give them all up. I mean, give them up. Because those of you who want to hold on to this life, hold on to your will, hold on to your ways, I've got news for you. The end of that is death. The end of that is death.
The wages of sin is death.
But if you give them up for my sake, guess what you gain? Everything. Life. Eternal life. That's what we're talking about here. So, what is the price of following Jesus? I mean, really following Jesus? Everything. Everything. And I don't mean these trinkets. No, no, no. I mean this. Everything. My next breath, my next heartbeat, my life. I'm thinking now that hymn, take my life and let it be consecrated, Lord, to thee. Take my will and make it thine. It shall be forever thine. Beautiful hymn that expresses this idea. It's take it, take it, take it, take it. Because, you know, trust and obey, for there is no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. When we walk with the Lord in the light of his word, what a glory he sheds on our way. While we do his good will, he abides with us still, as long as we trust and obey. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus, but to trust and obey. Beautiful hymn. I love it. We don't hear it enough in our church. I mean, I learned that when I was in Sunday school. I love that hymn. Trust and obey. Beautiful hymn, you know. And it is interesting as I'm teaching, I'm hearing these old hymns because they're from my childhood. But it's like, you know, the truths are timeless. That's absolutely true. Saint Faustina might as well have written that hymn, Trust and Obey, because that's exactly what she says in Divine Mercy. It's Divine Mercy. Trust and obey. Jesus, I trust in you. I mean, it's good theology. A good, well-written hymn has good theology in it. It just does. That's what makes a good hymn a good hymn. And makes some of the folk tunes that we sing in Mass just folk tunes, if you ask this reporter's opinion. Okay? Just saying. A good hymn has good theology in it that becomes part of you. Okay? So this is one of the 1974. Let's look at 915. 915. And this is part of the consecrated life. Did you see that? The state of life which is constituted by the professions of the evangelical councils, which, while not entering into the hierarchical structure of the church, belong undeniably to her life and holiness. Those who have fallen, or not fallen, who have followed consecrated life are signs of her life and holiness of the church. The church is holy because there's holy people in it. Those who have consecrated themselves to the evangelical councils. And what is that? Christ proposes the evangelical councils in their great variety, to which just monks and nuns, right? Just to monks and nuns.
To every disciple.
Every disciple. So that means this is for everyone, not just monks and nuns and priests. And what is it? The perfection of charity. What are we back to again? We're back to love again. You notice how everything keeps circling back to that? You would begin to think that the whole gospel is about love. You know, if you're paying any attention to what the catechism is saying here, you would begin to think that the whole of Christian message is about love. Boy, there's a shocker, huh? Christian message is all about love. Love of God and love of each other. That's a new one on me. The perfection of charity, to which all the faithful are called. Did you hear that? Not just the priests, not just the sisters,